Something does this.
Some other people.
Testing. Testing. Does that come through? Testing. Testing. No?
I'm going to try another jack. It's mine up here.
I can't see what that
It says balance and unbalance. I don't know what that means.
You want to try it again?
Okay.
Testing. Testing. No?
Just gonna, that's the red mic.
Yeah.
What if I try this? This jack here?
I don't know if that's an in though.
I think this is the last one.
Oh, that's an in. Oh, okay.
Busy week.
All right. Well,
They did something
perhaps it won't work.
Sunday.
Don't know. I'm not the tech director who would probably be able to
gonna try
figure
this.
something out. Let me try it one more time. Oh, I didn't test it. Testing. Testing.
Nope, nothing. I didn't think it would work in here.
Coming through.
Yeah, I can. I have it loud enough where I can hear it coming out of the speaker right
I mean, the
now.
only thing is if I take this headphones out, try that.
Yeah, but I don't want to mess up your thing.
Well, I could probably live without it.
For you to come up.
Try it. Testing. Testing. Testing.
Yeah, I got that.
Got that.
But I'm not. But it's still kind of fuzzy, so it wouldn't really matter for me anyway. So why don't you can still use that.
January 11th.
All right. I mean, it's pretty good.
Trying to bring churches together.
Whatever they say is going to come through the
for
speakers.
a service at the community center.
Yeah.
January
So
11th.
as long as your mic can pick up, it's
So right now it says that they're
It
trying
can, but it's still going to have that room reverb.
Yeah. Change the time later.
It's all right.
in the day on that Sunday.
Okay. It wouldn't be the first time I went micless.
Trying to give them the
I could have found out. You know, let me.
together something like this, but at the same time,
I can try
a
calling
little
some.
wisdom, making sure they understand.
Don't try too hard.
That's a normal
It's
church day.
quite all right.
You know,
Like our service begins at 10.
yeah. So trying to get them to use the time. They're under that impression. Well, if we're going to bring churches together, then why can't they do it during that time? Because that's what we're trying to do. So but they're taking a lot of wisdom from pastors that are out there. Of course, they're challenging them. But I mean, if we're talking unity,
It's got a,
then it shouldn't matter.
but the headphone jack.
Everybody should keep
got that one.
it being an event for God, right? And not evil.
So I see the other
pride.
things are like sub out, flip switch, those things. On the,
As challenging as it is for them, trying to make them make
Yep.
a decision. So whether they want to change it.
I'm doing my January.
okay, I see 3 of 4 are taken. Is it the last one?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. That's what I'm looking at. Of the board, controlling all the sound.
Well, if you or somebody else, or you want to send somebody else into the place, we meet Tuesdays at 5:30.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Over there so that we can.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the XLRs
take
has
it
something
in
plugged into it.
everybody. It's not going to be service with somebody.
Okay. So he could take the right channel of the XLR? Of the what? Yeah, the 1/4 inch. That's what I meant. But the other one, the left one of the 1/4 inch is taken.
They're good introductions.
Okay. All right. So he could take that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There'll be a mono signal. Okay. And there's no way for me to, and it's not going to have any control on the output other than what I'm doing.
Right.
Okay.
I'll be there for the first half.
It is a 1/4 inch. Yes. Okay. Great. Thanks. No, I got it. All right. Okay. Yeah.
Thrilled to have you as our neighbor with love to invite you to come over someday to break bread together. Yes.
You want to test it? Yes, please. Testing.
Perfect. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, Terry. Look at that. You're like command center. Reminds me of one of those shows where people are on a boat or something and they're like sticking things in.
See you not sneezing for that.
What?
See you not sneezing for that.
See you next what?
I see you not sneezing for
Oh,
that.
no, I took off my mask because I figured, okay, if I'm not coughing and sneezing at the moment, that should be okay, because it was
Right.
suffocating me.
Oh.
I can put it back on.
5:15, Maggie welcomes the guests, and then she introduces the video of the cinematography, and that's when we transition to the next. Here, we're here.
Oh, I see, playing it at the end of her.
Yeah.
And, okay, so it would be good to know, and whoever she's introducing, that person's going to speak from podium, right?
Thank you for your help.
Sure. I wonder if she should speak from the podium, just because it sets the precedence. You know, that people know, okay, you go to the podium to speak. Like if she wants to wander later, she can. But I think for her intro, it'd be good to be at the podium. Hey, I need a name tag.
You need a name tag. I can make you one if you want. You want one?
I guess it'd be good.
Okay. So Maggie has the yellow one is for the cinematography, but yellow is
She has the green.
she has the green.
Let me ask her where she's going to do it.
Right. I'm sorry, I'm standing.
So I think she's so I'm going to switch to the podium.
When the buttons are dark, they are off.
No. So now I have her.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. I know that it's a really busy week in an incredibly busy month. I'm grateful to be in community with you all, as are the other members of the IRIS team who are here with me tonight, and I hope you get to meet many of them. I'm going to say a few words, and I'm going to give you an indication of what's happening this evening. I'll say a little bit, much shorter than my normal rambling self. Senator Murphy, who sent a message for an event that we did earlier this month, and it's absolutely appropriate now. We'll be playing that video. And then I'm very pleased to introduce someone who needs no introduction to you all, Miriam Elahi from the Community Foundation of Southeastern Connecticut. At that point, the Attorney General should have arrived, and Jeannie Milstein, AKA the Mayor of New London, for real. We'll be introducing the Attorney General, he'll speak, and then there's going to be a Q&A. So you'll have an opportunity to ask questions of the Attorney General, of Dodd Serweri on my team, who many of you in the community sponsor community know so well, of Mike Doyle, our head of Immigration Legal Services, of Ted Doolittle, former immigration judge in Hartford, who was one of the judges let go when all of the probationary judges were fired a few months ago, and they'll be answering questions for you. And we also have some live streaming, and so those that are able to tune in online will be able to ask questions. How does that sound to you all? And even better, we have some amazing catering from Isa Catering at the back. Phenomenal. And I was hoping that the Attorney General would be able to do one of his famous Tong tastings, but it sounds like he's on the run, so he may not be able to do that. Okay, so without any other introduction, let me first kick off with the Senator, and you can hear him for a few minutes.
Partners for a long time. I have confidence that America is going to be able to survive this moment. Partners for a long work over the years, and I just know that we're going to be partners for a long time. I have confidence that America is going to be able to survive this moment, that we're going to be able to return to our legacy, our history of being a nation that welcomes those who find safety and solace here in the United States. And I'm here to help you in any way that I can. Obviously, we still have a lot of families here that need help, and well, we also have to speak truth to power about what is happening in this administration. You know that we have received word that the Trump administration is planning to only settle white refugees in the United States. That is on its face a racist policy, and it violates every foundation, every moral foundation of the refugee program. We're going to fight that policy change here while we continue to support the work that you do. This is a moment where we also have to do education, where we also have to be out in the community talking to folks who, you know, maybe have grown to become skeptical of immigration, who have maybe believed some of the lies Trump spreads about how welcoming people to the United States makes us weaker, and explain how it does exactly the opposite, how Connecticut's communities from New Haven to Hartford to Stamford to Bridgeport are much stronger because we have such cultural diversity in our communities, how it's these refugees that often become the small business owners that help power our downtowns, who eventually build multi-million-dollar companies that employ thousands of people. So we need to tell this story at the same time that we are fighting this massive, important battle politically, at the same time that we're continuing to support the refugee families that are here. Just a long way of saying thank you. I've been so privileged to be your partner, and I'm ready to help in any way that I can.
There's a reason I didn't speak before the senator, because he said it so much better. A couple of things just to tie in my remarks with what he has said. First of all, of course, the most glaring omission is that he didn't mention New London among the list of cities, but we'll forgive him. It's a busy day. It's hard to remember the entire state sometimes. So what the senator said is something that Iris is living out. I'm very proud to work for an organization that remembers what its mission is. And sometimes that's really hard because the stakes are so high. And what do I mean by that? The senator called out a policy, and I won't use the same language that he used to describe the policy. At Iris, we just say that we resettle refugees. We resettle and help people who are displaced, forcibly displaced. My predecessor, Chris George, spent a lot of time going around the state, helping people understand what it means to be a refugee. We know what that word means. It does not mean that you're coming here because you have ideological views that someone in the White House happens to agree with. It means that you are fleeing persecution, that something about you is causing the society you live in and the government that should be serving you to attack you. And we give you refuge. It's powerful, it has meaning, and there are groups in this room, Start Fresh, the Old Lyme sponsor group, other sponsor groups that are too numerous to mention, who know this just as well as we do. And our board took a stand, and I'm so proud of that, to say that is who we work for. We know who we work for. And so we are, for the first time ever in 43 years, not participating, starting January 1st, in the US government-supported US refugee admissions program. And I say that very specifically because we are still going to resettle people. Afghans who make it here, Afghans who make it here, as they have since January 24th, when the US refugee admissions program was shut down, we have welcomed them, and we did it without federal funding. And you know why? Because you stood with us. We were able to do that because sponsor groups, donors, volunteers said, yes, we can, and we will, and we do. And that is going to hold true after January 1st, even though fewer and fewer Afghans are able to get here because the pathways and the programs that were meant to assist them in relocating them and meeting our country's promise to them have been shut down. But we will welcome them. If they make it to New Haven, we will welcome them, and we thank you for that. And if they make it to New London or anywhere else and they need help, we will help them. Okay. But there's more to resettlement. You know, people have said to me, and I know a number of community sponsor groups have said to me, but Maggie, what do we do now? People aren't coming. The government has shut down almost every pathway. Well, we all know, who work in this space, that resettlement isn't about that first apartment or even that first job. It's about helping upskill folks so that they can actually be self-sufficient. Some of you have heard me say this. The 90 days that refugees have to become self-sufficient, I have 4 kids. You know where I'm going, okay? 3 out of the 4 were not self-sufficient after graduating from high school, and they speak English. And even the 4th one, my older daughter, I'm very proud, she's still on my phone plan. So it's unrealistic. It always was unrealistic. The help that sponsor groups in this area and across the state and that IRIS provides for refugees isn't about 90 days or even 180 days. It's about year 3. And the federal funding stops at year 5. And it's insufficient to even meet the needs up until year 5. And after year 5, it's like, you're fine. They're not fine. But here's the positive. We have people who want to have a better job, to do more in their communities, to do more for their families. We can help them. We can help improve their English, targeted to workforce programs that already exist, and get them into those programs so that they get higher paying jobs and they go from self-sufficiency to thriving, where they can take skills that they came here with that are sometimes hard to use and take years to be able to be certified or to figure out how to transition those skills into a career. We can do this. And I say we deliberately. I don't just mean we, IRIS. It takes everyone in this room and people far beyond making that happen. And what I'm proud to say is that we are sitting in a city right now that knows this, that cares about every member of this community. It doesn't ask for their immigration status because it doesn't matter. And in a state that has taken a stand with the Trust Act and in other ways to say, we value everyone that is here, and your humanity should be respected. That doesn't depend on your immigration status. All right, so we've got a lot of work to do, but we also have some really great speakers to hear from. And I'm really excited to turn over the microphone to Miriam Elahi, Community Foundation of Southeastern Connecticut's CEO, because she is another partner in this effort, and we're just so excited to have her here. Miriam.
Good evening. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you, Maggie, so much for all that you and everyone at IRIS does every day. I remember years ago that when I used to work at Amnesty International, we used to say, what a dark place it would be without Amnesty. And I feel the same with IRIS. What a dark place it would be without IRIS. And all the people you have mobilized and inspired to do good in our community. It makes a big difference. So I've been involved in the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut is your community foundation. We cover 42 towns in Eastern Connecticut, pretty much the eastern third of the state. I've seen the work of IRIS and its welcoming mat impact so many folks around here. I wanted to mention that I'm part of a church community in Old Lyme that has been very involved in welcoming refugees. And year after year, I've seen what a difference. Hi there. I've seen what a difference it's made, how our lives are enriched by the wonderful people who've come into our community, and how it has actually brought people in that community together. We often talk about the fabric in this country. I mean, we're all immigrants, right? Unless you're Native American, you're an immigrant in this community, in this country. Some of us came earlier on the boat. Some of us came later by foot or plane or boat, but the end result is the same. You were fleeing some awful thing that was happening. You wanted a better life for your family. Nobody wants to leave their home country if they don't have to. People want to walk down the street, talk their native language, smell the food that they grew up eating, and laugh at the jokes that everyone understands. They don't want to go somewhere where all of a sudden they become a no one, where their education, background, all that was respected back home, all of a sudden is nothing. I've seen that in so many instances where people who were highly respected elders of their communities come here and they all of a sudden feel nobody gets us. They don't know who we are. They don't know what we bring. And IRIS and organizations like IRIS have made such a huge difference in returning that fabric of humanity to people who have to walk that awful line. I'd like to recognize our friend Michael, who's the attorney working with IRIS, Michael Doyle. We met on a snowy day here in New London, I want to say about 10 years ago. Michael was an attorney in Rhode Island, driving from there to New London with great passion, working out of a small space in a church by Washington Square with deep commitment to create the organization I ask and to do good, to help people who were coming into this community to feel welcomed and embraced. So I think it's really important for all of us to change the narrative, to talk about immigrants as all of us, to talk about immigrants as people who bring so much richness to our community, and to put our arms around them. I was very concerned in conversations with our superintendent and people who work at the school to learn that some of the, good afternoon, Attorney General, good to see you, to hear that so many parents are terrified to take their kids to school, to pick them up, and therefore some of the kids in our community, our kids, are not getting their education. So this is not acceptable. America has been a beacon of hope for so many of us around the world. People who have seen America embrace dictators, but they've also seen the Peace Corps, USAID. They've seen good Americans who come and embrace people who need help. And that's what we want to show the world, that we are a community of hope, that we care about our friends and neighbors, regardless of where they come from, and that when somebody slips, we lend a hand and help them stand again. So I don't want to take any more time because we have important speakers here with us. I just wanted to say we at the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut stand with Iris. We stand with all of you in creating a thriving community in Eastern Connecticut. Thank you.
Miriam, thank you so much. Jeannie Milstein, AKA the Deputy Mayor. I'm trying to give you the appropriate title, Jeannie.
My title is 1-800 called Jeannie. That's my title. First of all, thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Iris, IS, for everything you do. And to everyone in this room, thank you for making a difference in our community every single day. And aren't we so lucky to have Mariam Elahi as the leader of our community foundation? Not every community foundation is as bold as our community foundation and is committed to advocacy and social justice. So you can never leave. No one can ever leave. Look around, and by the way, the mayor is so sorry that he's unable to join us, but you know he's here with us in spirit, and you know he's deeply committed to helping all of our neighbors. So look around this room. Many of us are or have parents or grandparents who came from other places. They brought their hopes, dreams, and skills with them. Those dreams helped build community, the community we now share, and their hard work created jobs, started businesses, and made New London stronger. And it is our diversity which is our strength. New London is a seaport town. It has always been a rich mix of people. It is a community where everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome. We pull together to benefit and build a community that supports everyone. And who is at the forefront to ensure that we do not lose the beauty, richness, and rights of our neighbors? Attorney General William Tong. And who, in this truly brutal moment, is modeling the courage and leadership we need in the face of tyranny? Attorney General William Tong. And who has filed or joined at least 37, by the time I wrote this a couple hours ago, we're probably up to 40 by now, 38 against the federal government, not just on immigration, but on education, SNAP benefits. That was just yesterday. That was 38, okay. So I'm on track. And education, and keeping our wind project going here in New London. Attorney General William Tong. And who is making sure that everyone will always be welcome in New London? Attorney General William Tong. So I'm going to end with this. The feds may be trying to kill the American dream, but here in New London, it is alive and well. And we are so, so grateful to you, Attorney General Tong, for making it possible.
She's the boss lady, that's her name. So I have the the whatever, lavalier mic or whatever, so I'm going to do my Oprah or Donahue thing. I think people in this room know what I'm talking about. If we had a younger crowd, they would have no idea. Or what a payphone was. Let's thank Jeannie Milstein for her incredible leadership. I want to thank our law enforcement partners. I know the chief greeted me. Thank you for working so hard to keep us safe. I don't know what hat you're wearing today, Representative Nolan. Is it Officer Nolan or Representative Nolan? For both, thank you very much. Anthony Nolan. And Maggie, where's Maggie? Who's been blowing up my phone, so I came here tonight. Thank you. So, Maggie, I'm wearing sneakers because I hurt myself. I overdid it at the gym, training for the Iris 5K on Super Bowl Sunday. So I hope I am healed by then. So I'm wearing these sneakers to recover from that injury. I thought I would share a few thoughts, and then I'm on a bit of a tight schedule, but if I have a few minutes, I can take a couple questions. But as I was reflecting on what I wanted to say, I looked at this sign, and it says Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services. And it's refugees and immigrants. And it occurs to me that very often they're one and the same. When I was a kid in the 1970s growing up in West Hartford, I remember when the first refugees came from Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. And they were resettled in West Hartford. My parents owned a Chinese restaurant. We were doing pretty well back then. And I remember thinking to myself, first grade, second grade, these kids are refugees, but I am the son and grandson of immigrants. And I actually thought I was better than them, right? I thought there was some difference. They spoke a different language. They sort of looked like me, but not really. And I believed there to be some difference. And then as I got older and began to understand who I am, why I'm here, why the hell William Tong was born in Hartford Hospital to two people who came here with nothing, I realized that the reason why William Tong, why the hell was I born in Hartford Hospital, why were Chinese immigrants here, it's because my grandparents and my dad ran for their lives. So yes, I am the son and grandson of immigrants, but I am nothing if not the son and grandson of refugees. And that is true about so many people. So much has happened in the last 9 months. It has been awful, brutal, painful, and we could spend all night talking about what we've seen, what we've heard, what we're doing. What we've learned is this president, this administration just wants to break things, right? They're literally breaking the White House right now. And they just want to break federal programs. They want to break Medicaid. They want to break an already broken immigration system. They want to break the states and bring us to heel. They're capable of great cruelty. And every one of us has a story, something that we personally saw, somebody we know. What really hit me in the gut was Kevin from Maloney High School in Meriden, who on the eve of his graduation was taken. And the school decided in an act of tremendous courage that they would read his name and hold his diploma for him so that when he can, he will come back and claim it. Not everybody would do that. And they just want to bully and intimidate us and beat us into submission, right? And most recently, the 38th lawsuit was to sue the Trump administration to stop them from defunding SNAP. And willfully and intentionally starving people into submission. For what? For what? So he can achieve his political will in this shutdown. In fact, they're not just using starvation and hunger, they're weaponizing healthcare too in this whole effort. And if there's anything that should not be weaponized against people, we're not talking about taxes, we're not talking about, large federal programs, we're talking about food and medicine for people that are hungry and sick. And so in these moments, it is hard not to get discouraged and to feel lost and disoriented. And people ask me, well, what can we do? In my immediate reaction, somebody asked me this the other night at an event in Stanford, and he said, what can we do, Mr. Attorney General? I said, do you love your children and your family? He said, yes. I said, do you care about your state and your community? He said, yes. I said, then get up off your ass and fight. That's what you can do. Anything that you can do, you should do. Don't put yourself at risk, and I try to caution people. But whatever skill you have, whatever leverage you have, whatever space you're in, help. Help Iris. Help nonprofits like Iris that are under so much pressure. Yes, give money, give more. Okay? If you're an accountant, if you're a lawyer, if you're a nurse, if you have some skill, offer it to an organization or a family or a city and say, I can help, right? I can help you balance the books. I can help you show up in court and represent an immigrant. I can help them as a social worker and help with the kids. I can help you go into probate court, right? To help a family that might have to make provision for their children. And I'm reminded of an experience I had actually right before I became Attorney General, which is now 7 years ago. That was 1.0, Trump 1.0. And a family in Farmington, Simsbury, the Huang family, I'm not outing them because this was in the current and in the national news. The Huang family had a target on their backs. They're Chinese Americans of North Korean descent with 2 American-born children, American citizens. And they were going to get deported. And so the community rose up. They owned a nail salon. The community rose up around them, customers, neighbors, and it's a big demonstration, and it hit the national news. It hit the AP. And my sister is a deputy editor at the New York Times. And so she saw this story about a Chinese American family, and as far as I'm concerned, they're Chinese Americans. But this story of this Chinese American family that ran a small business like my parents did, who were at risk of being deported. And she texted me the AP story and sent me a simple message. That could easily be us. That could easily be us. And that was a punch right in the gut. And so if I wasn't on my feet before that, I got right up on my feet. And so they were on the verge of getting deported the next day. It was a Friday. They were going to go on Saturday. And I called then Governor Malloy. And I said, Dan, will you meet with this family from Simsbury? And he said, yeah, but I don't know what I can do, right? I said, well, just meet with them. So we went in 11:30. We were there till 1. We talked about all the different ideas about how we could help the Huangs, but there was nothing really actionable, tangible. They were in a tough place, like so many families are right now, right? The law was not on their side. And so he thanked them for coming and said words of encouragement. And as we were leaving, I just pulled him aside. And he's like, William, I don't know, man. And I said, well, Governor, can you at least just call ICE? Do something to see if you can find some grace somewhere in that agency. So we left, and I thought, it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock, it's over. It's not going to happen. At about 3:30 p.m., the governor called me on my cell phone. Governor Malloy says, William, I got it. They're staying. I said, well, how did you do that? And he said, I called 3 different people at ICE, okay? And I said, well, Governor, you must have been very persuasive. And he said, no, I was really pissed off. And sometimes, maybe the law isn't on your side. Maybe you don't have a great argument, but you have a pissed off governor making phone calls. And so I tell you that story because whatever it is, we need to try it and do it. Because you don't know in these circumstances what's going to work, what lever you pull will make a difference. This crowd in Washington is, they're such agents of chaos that they don't know on any one day what they're doing and what their policy is. So we need to push as hard as we can and try as hard as we can to get people the help that they need. Now as you know, they continue to try and bully us into submission. And let me just say, as your Attorney General, we are not going to be bullied, and we are not going to submit. They tried to ban birthright citizenship. On the very first Monday night, I sued on Tuesday because they did it at like 8 p.m. on Monday night. I sued on Tuesday. We have 2 federal court orders blocking the president's attempt to eviscerate the 14th Amendment. This matters to so many of us, including this guy, the first American citizen in my immediate family, who is standing here with a U.S. passport by right of my birth on American soil, not because my parents were citizens. They were not when I was born. So many millions of Americans, Miriam talked about our stories, about highlighting who we are. This is who we are. This is who we are. And when the president tried to attach conditions to Department of Homeland Security funding, including funding for FEMA, saying we won't give you the money unless you do what we say on immigration, we sued and we stopped him, and that money is flowing now again to Connecticut. And again, on DOT, they tried to attach immigration conditions and violate our sovereignty. What do I mean by that? It's our right and prerogative not to do the federal government's job for them. We gave them that job. This is why the federal government has so much power and authority over immigration, because the states delegated that authority to the federal government, which in a rational world makes sense that the federation should handle it for the states. But they've now amassed incredible power. But the one power they do not have is to come in and tell Connecticut and our law enforcement, you have to do federal immigration law enforcement for the federal government. Wrong. That is a violation of our state sovereignty, of the principle of federalism, which is why when they try to condition DOT grants, which fund our roads and bridges, on immigration, law enforcement compliance, we sued, we stopped him, and that money is flowing. So keep fighting. Keep fighting. And people, I know people are scared. I'm scared too. I went away for summer vacation. We went to the Caribbean with my kids. And I will tell you that when I came back on a Saturday night flight into JFK at 10 p.m., the entire senior staff of the Office of the Attorney General was up monitoring their phones because they were worried that I would get detained and they wouldn't let me back in. No one should worry about me. I can take care of myself, but that is an absurd situation that we find ourselves in. But people ask me, what gives you hope? Okay? What gives me hope is all of you and all of us and the diversity of this incredible community and this city. You, Miriam, you said something, that you said something like that they're going to try to kill the American dream, or the federal government is doing its best to kill the American dream. They can't. They can't. They can hurt us. They can hurt us, but this country is not going to be less diverse in the next 10 years. My wife and I have had 3 children, and there are other couples and families like ours that are bringing more children into this world. History, demographics are happening. It cannot be stopped. We're not going to stop hiring women like Miriam and Maggie to run our organizations. They do a better job than the men anyway. I hope my wife heard that. But what gives me hope is that I'm a kid that comes from refugees as immigrants. I grew up in a Chinese restaurant. My parents met in the Hong Kong kitchen on Blue Hills Avenue in Bloomfield. No shit, the Hong Kong kitchen. They opened a Chinese restaurant, and somewhere in middle school, business started to go in the wrong direction. It used to be Jeannie Milstein that the Jewish families would go there for Christmas and Friday night dinner. But now they go there on Tuesday night for takeout. There was too much competition, and business started to go in the wrong direction. So my parents did what all immigrant small business people do. They called on their children. So if you go in a takeout joint around here and you see a high schooler ring up your Tuesday night takeout, that was me. I worked side by side with my parents in a hot Chinese restaurant kitchen. And while I tell this story with pride, and it has so much to do with who I am as an American, as a father, as Attorney General, it sucked. If anybody has worked in a family business and have your parents screaming at you, it's not great. And I remember how hard it was, and at times how brutal it was, not just for me, but to watch my parents suffer 7 days a week, 12 to 15 hours a day. And in one generation, I went from that hot Chinese restaurant kitchen in the state of Connecticut in Wethersfield to being the 25th Attorney General of the state. It's a good story, but I don't tell you that story because it's a good story. I tell you that story because it is an unremarkable story. It is a story shared by so many people. And there are kids right now, our kids in this city, the sons and daughters and grandchildren of refugees and immigrants, who are just like us, whose parents are fighting 7 days a week, 12 to 15 hours a day. I know those kids, right? I lived their life. And I know they will make it. I know they will make it if we fight for them right now. That's why I know they can't extinguish this dream, because that dream, that truth is being lived by so many thousands and millions of Americans. Let's get out there and fight for them. Thank you.
I know I'm blowing up your phone. I'm really sorry. But would give me your phone?
She has the bat phone. She has the bat phone.
Questions?
Sure.
We have a couple minutes.
Are we okay, Justin? Okay. Yes.
The masks that I asked for.
Yes.
Is there any way?
Maybe. Yeah. Here's the answer. We're doing the best that we can. The legislature is considering it now. The judicial branch, the Chief Justice and the state court system has already said he's limited the number of arrests in courthouses and the types of arrests, and he's limited the wearing of masks in the courthouses. Here's the honest truth, because I'm going to be straight with everybody. Remember what I said about the states delegating power over immigration to the federal government? Well, that's real, okay? We did that because it makes sense in a rational world that Connecticut can't run an immigration system on its own, right? It would make no sense for us to send customs officials to Logan and JFK and check in the Connecticut people tonight. And that's why we delegated that authority to the federal government. With that delegation comes a tremendous amount of power and authority, and they don't have to be nice about it. That's the hard truth.
Any other questions? Please raise your hand and we'll go to Mike.
Is there anything?
Hold on, a mic's coming. You don't have the Donahue mic.
Is there anything we as citizens or as groups of states can do to withhold federal tax money?
Probably not. You know, it would be, even if I were to entertain that idea and then its close cousin, the soft secession, there's probably no effective mechanism for us to pool all of our federal income tax payments, which are made by individuals, and withhold them en masse. By the way, okay, about 40% of this state doesn't agree with us or you on this issue. So that's another challenge. The other thing I would say is, I had this question earlier. I was at Eastern Connecticut State University. And the question was asked about soft secession or related ideas. Let's not go there. This is still the most powerful and prosperous economic engine humanity has ever built. And it is still the freest country on earth. And we still have a legal system that is banking left and right at times, but is still working. On many of these lawsuits, of the 38 that I've filed, we have won many of them, okay? We have preliminary injunctions in many of these cases. And so what we have to do now is get through this 3.5-year period and hold this country together. Hold this union together. There's no America without Texas.
Yeah.
There just isn't.
Are you sure?
Yes. That's another debate. That's another. One more. I'll take two more. This. Here we go. First here. Over here in the back with the teal. Both have teal.
The almost daily emails I get from your office about the current cases being filed. I'm also very impressed by how Connecticut's part of coalition across states. Can you just say a little bit about that? Is that really a new or a much bigger kind of thing?
It's not new. It looks a little bit different than it has, but quick history, civics lesson. 25 years ago or so, the federal government, obviously over the last 3 decades, has struggled to discharge its basic duties, and Congress has really struggled. This didn't start yesterday. And as Congress struggled to function, we used to look to Congress like how a bill becomes a law, right? They would have a budget, they would make laws, and they would address areas of national concern, but they were unable to address the crisis of youth smoking. At a time when a lot of people in this room remember, 50% of American adults smoked. 50%. Everywhere, by the way, right? Remember that? So it was Attorney General Blumenthal who joined together with his fellow attorneys general and said, we're going to stop waiting for Congress because they're broken, and we're going to take on the big tobacco companies. So that was the big bang. And so if you saw George Jepsen on the mortgage servicer and national bank settlement after the financial crisis, and then me on the opioid and addiction crisis, in our antitrust cases, and now our cases against social media, it's because states recognized we're the original building blocks of this country. We're done waiting for the federal government. We're going to exercise our sovereign authority, because we're sovereign here in the state of Connecticut, to protect our citizens. So that mechanism, engine, was built. And on a lot of important things, it's bipartisan. So I am about to become the president of the National Association of Attorneys General. And it will be Democrats and Republicans. All of the work against Trump is Democrats right now. And I sometimes say to my Republican colleagues, you guys ready yet? Because SNAP is hurting you guys worse, in many cases. Tariffs are crushing Mississippi, right, and Alabama. They're not ready yet. Let me also say, though, that, and a lot of this work is done direct, face-to-face. I travel a lot. I'm on Zoom a lot. Tish James and me and others. It's not through staff. It's direct, It's, what do you think about this? Let's try that. Let's file this lawsuit. But that work is still so important, reaching out to our multi-state partners on both sides of the aisle. And it's my honor to do it. Last question.
I have people ask me, and I have the question too, how can ordinary people help you fight back on a regular basis?
Well, thank you. You'll have an opportunity next year. Although that's not an announcement. Couple things. Number one, don't worry about me too much. But to the extent that you hear about, there have been efforts to cut our budget and to reduce the number of lawyers and staff that we have, which is absurd in this moment. We return like 100, 1,000 times our effort in federal funding and resources for the state through all of our work. But what you really need to do is, here's what I would say, 2 things. Number one is, the only way this situation changes is if we win elections. Okay? I'm sorry to say this, and some of you might throw a tomato at me. This, writ large, is what the American people wanted. And they got it. We chose him. Not me and you, okay? But we did. And the sooner we stop absolving ourselves of that guilt and say it's somebody else, and pick up a shovel and say we're part of this too, and we have to find a way back to people and get them to understand why this is so damaging and so painful. I'm doing that with my fellow Republican attorneys general, trying to show them how it impacts their states. The quicker we'll get to changing the people that we've elected, okay? Now, you're going to get asked to give money, you're going to ask to write postcards, you're going to get asked to go knock doors. You should do all of that, okay? Yes, in whatever way you have time and your resources allow, do all of that. But don't forget about what's in front of you first, okay? How did we get here? My Republican colleagues understand the value of local elections and local organizing and stacking the deck in state legislatures, right? They get it. And by the way, that's their pipeline. They know that if they get attorneys general and secretaries of state, right, and treasurers and comptrollers in line, they move them along, in the pipeline and they indoctrinate them and train them for when they move on to other offices. So we have to focus on what's in front of us. Nobody, by the way, should think that it is a foregone conclusion that we will stay blue. Do not think that for a second. Blue states are not nearly as blue as red states are red. True. Okay, we could easily elect a Republican governor in this state. So focus on what's in front of you. Your municipal races here in New London and in the region, those are really important. Your state rep races and state senator races and the gubernatorial and the constitutional offices next year, those are important. Make sure that you don't not focus on what's in front of you. And the final thing, and the reason why is because this is how we build our strength and our muscles and how we ensure that we win elections in 26 and 28. If you think Connecticut's not at risk, look at New Jersey. New Jersey is changing very quickly and not in a good way. The final thing I would say, and I'll leave you with this, help somebody, like I said earlier. You can help me by helping Iris, okay? You can help me by helping the organizations because this is a real thing, because if Iris and organizations like Iris are struggling, they're gonna call me anyway. Okay? So you can help by strengthening everybody. Thanks, everybody.
I've been trying to get time with you on a confidential issue. It keeps getting canceled. My parents were refugees from Iran. I feel I can't leave the country.
Thank you.
You didn't get to do a tongue tasting.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah? Yes. Take a photo. Oh, no, now I'm not. No. on? It's not on? It's on. Okay. Hi, I'm back. I didn't realize I had left. Thank you, and at this point I just want to thank a few people that I have not thanked yet before we move to our panel Q&A discussion. One, I want to recognize and thank IRIS board members, past and present, who are here tonight. If everybody could give a round of applause, and if you don't mind standing. Thank you. I'd also like to recognize, and they were mentioned once, and that's not enough, IASC, a local immigration legal services organization that is just so important to this community. And we come here knowing that we're kind of headquartered in New Haven, but we want to recognize organizations that are headquartered here. And so I just want to recognize IASC and recognize their board. So a round of applause to them. Okay, we have a fantastic panel lined up for you. Ted Doolittle, who, as I mentioned, until recently was an immigration judge, has joined us this evening. Ted, come on up. And we're going to be taking your questions on immigration legal issues, on issues related to SNAP benefits. Any seat does. Next, we have Mike Doyle, who is the head of our immigration legal services. We have Dodd Serreri, who many of you know, and is our Associate Director of Community Sponsorship. Dodd. And of course, Miriam Elahi. Miriam, if you are still here and willing to join, come on up. I know the willing may not be there, but we're... Miriam, thank you. Okay, I'm going to leave the podium and turn this over to the expert group that's going to help take your questions. And again, questions about SNAP benefits, immigration legal issues. If there's something that you're confused about, there's a lot of information, misinformation out there. This is a fantastic group.
Who's first? Fortunately, we have some questions from the online. We have Iris staff,
Who have also been making this event happen, and Perry from All Souls, who has really been amazing. I know all of you know Perry. So one of the questions, how is, and this is to, I guess, the IRIS team, how is IRIS adapting its services to meet the needs of refugees and asylum seekers? And Mike, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot.
That's okay. That's what I'm for. Oops. Okay, so what do we do? What we're doing is we're going to turn this microphone off because...
No, that's fine. You're going to just hold it up.
So what do we do? All right. In our department, the legal department has seen, I mean, how do I describe the catastrophic landscape? I mean, I don't think I can explain it any better. The legal landscape has been a disaster, but there are still avenues to help. I really feel strongly that, you know, with our small cadre of staff in the legal department, that's important to get as many green cards as we can. That's a shield. Beyond that, of course, which is the wonderful shield of citizenship. So with those two shields, people will be able to thwart, hopefully, some of the consequences that we see going on today. The system is still processing applications, albeit more slowly. The applications are becoming more expensive. HR 1 really did a number on the fees that are required for people to file. And just yesterday, I don't know if this has already been mentioned, but just yesterday, they announced that no more automatic extensions for work authorizations will be issued after tomorrow. So what does that mean? When you file an application to get a work permit, it takes months and months and months. Sometimes people get lucky, 4 months, at least this is the way it was. More often than not, it's more like 9. But if your status expires in 6 months, or your work authorization expires in 6 months, that automatic extension was there because they knew that the process took too long. And they've now eliminated that. So what we all can do, we know that they're still processing these applications. We can still achieve some of the goals that we want to achieve to shield our clients. But wow, we don't have a legal staff of 22 anymore. There's 4.5 of us. So everywhere I go, I also selfishly ask for a bit of grace from folks that need help, because we're pretty overwhelmed, but we're very conscious of the crisis and the priorities that we need to set. And dang it, we're going for it. We're not going to stop.
I actually would love to ask a follow-up question, if I may. Take this? Okay. There are folks here who are familiar with some law firms in the area. Would any pro bono legal work be helpful, or is it so specialized that it really wouldn't be much of a help to you?
I think that any help from qualified personnel is fantastic. If they don't have the experience with immigration law, is it tough sometimes? Yeah, it's tough. But I remember 25 years ago when I got out of the Navy and I moved back north, the place that I was working at said, hey, go to immigration court and file this continuance. So, shiny-faced, I go to Boston, try to do my job. I had no idea what I was doing. None. I thought, oh, this will be fine, no problem. Well, immigration court does not like continuances, nor do immigration judges. I know I'm painting with a broad brush, but the one that I had was phenomenal. He taught me what to do. Instead of said, he did deny it, but then he said, here's what you do. And you know, it made all the difference in the world. So if there are qualified people, we'd love to have help. However, we also need help with the help. I have a staff. I'm not complaining. I love it. I love everything, but we are overwhelmed. So if there are volunteers who have the organizational skills, they can have 3 attorneys, to supervise or whatever. I mean, we've got to innovate. It is not the same ball of wax out there. So if somebody says, "Hey, I do this. Can you lend a hand?" First answer should be yes. Don't always know what it is at that moment, but this is how we can do it, because we do know that we can get work done, and we just need more resources to do it. So anyway.
Ted, could you sort of speak from your perspective, having been an immigration judge, and what you're seeing and how you think members of the community that want to help with immigration legal issues? And when we say immigration legal issues, for those who don't know, it's an alphabet soup. So there's a lot that can be done. Some of it some issues more complex than others, but all of it requires an incredible attention to detail because that's where you can get tripped up. But Ted, if you don't mind.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me, Maggie. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Ted Doolittle. And until a number of weeks ago, I was an immigration judge. Before I became an immigration judge, I was the healthcare advocate for the state of Connecticut. That's an office that can help anybody in this room who is fighting with their health insurance companies, like if you had a claim denial or something like that. It's an office of nurses, attorneys, and paralegals who can help you fight your claim denials and other issues for free. So I do have a long record of assisting people in facing tough bureaucratic situations. I also have a personal tie to the mission of IRIS, which is that my father was a diplomat in Laos during the Vietnam War, and he actually quit on a point of principle. And when we moved back to Connecticut, we sponsored a Laotian family, and my dad we lived up in the northwest corner of the state, which, as folks might know, very beautiful, but it's very rural. And my dad went around to all the churches in the northwest corner explaining what the refugee resettlement process was, and got several churches to sponsor folks. And we're still in touch with the Lao family that we sponsored. So it's very close to my heart, the mission of IRIS. So when you become an immigration judge, there's a 2-year probationary period. And you have probably heard about the Trump administration firing probationary employees, and there's a 2-year probationary period, as I mentioned. I came on duty as an immigration judge, and I was new to immigration, but excited to be a judge. And I came on duty in September of 2023 with 38 other judges around the country. And so my 2-year period expired in September of 2025. And there had been 2 classes that came off their probationary period ahead of the September class that I was part of. So there are judges that entered on duty in March of 2023 and July of 2023. And in both those cases, when that date came, apparently randomly selected number of the judges were not allowed to proceed into regular judge status. They were essentially fired at the end of their probationary period. That happened to me and to probably about at least 20 other of the judges that I started with. So over half of us were not allowed to continue with our jobs. Some of you may have read about an incident that people ask me if it's related to my getting fired, which is a gentleman who had just appeared in front of me was tased outside my courtroom, and without warning to anybody on the court staff or myself. And hearing a incredible commotion outside, I went to see if I could help, and I found this gentleman who had been previously a student at Yale University, actually, getting detained by ICE. He was on the floor. And I observed from a distance, and as they passed by me on the way out, I said to the ICE agents twice, "You ought to be ashamed of yourself." That later did come out in the newspapers, and people have asked me, "Do you think your termination was connected to that?" I don't think it helped me, right? But but there were a number of others who didn't have such incidents who also were terminated. So I do think it was part of a broader policy or pattern, which is new to immigration court. In the past, probably 95% or more of the probationary judges would just become a permanent judge with no fanfare whatsoever. So this is a little bit new. Mike talked about continuances, and I just want to share one anecdote that happened very late during the last few weeks of my tenure as an immigration judge. Hartford, Connecticut does not have any immigration detention facilities. That is to say, there's no ICE jails in Connecticut. So as a result, the judges like myself in Hartford don't hear detained cases very much because there's no detained people in Connecticut. If you are in Connecticut and you get picked up, you're going to go to Plymouth, Mass, or you're going to go to Louisiana or something like that. And now the Connecticut Immigration Court doesn't have jurisdiction anymore. I was assigned, because of, as you know, many people are getting detained, I was assigned to a special project to assist remotely with detained cases. I was assigned to hear some cases out of the detention facility in Jena, Louisiana. And without mentioning any specific cases, but giving you a real world view of what that entailed, first, I had a half an hour of training along with a bunch of other judges around the country on detained cases. The only thing that I remember much was about continuances. They said, you're an independent judge, you get to decide the motions how you want. We don't expect that there will be too many continuances granted in these detained cases. And if you do grant a continuance, we want you to paper it and put an explanation of why, what was unusual about this case that merited granting a continuance. So now I start hearing these cases. And a lot of them were like the following. There's a person who'd been in the United States for many years and had been arrested in July. And I'm hearing the case on August 6th. A judge down in Louisiana had already had a preliminary hearing in these cases and set the trial date for November of 2025. Okay, now Mike, can you build an asylum case from August 6th to a date in November in a careful way? No way. The evidence is down in Ecuador, it's down in El Salvador. You've got to get that evidence out of the country, you've got to have it translated. There's a whole host of things that go into it. So the November date was unrealistic. When the case was assigned to me as a Hartford judge, the court staff, on instructions from Washington, D.C., or actually it's Arlington, Virginia, where the immigration courts are headquartered, right outside of Washington, D.C. This is August 6th. They had moved the trial date up from November to August 16th. 10 days. Is that realistic, Mike? I mean, it's not, right? We were under this sort of, I mean, yeah, go ahead and decide the continuance motions the way you want, guys, but, you know, we don't expect there's going to be too many of them. Obviously, at that point, a person like me is up against not only your oath as a judge, but just your ethical obligations as an attorney to do due process. So I'm going to grant a continuance, and that's what I did. I don't know if I would have gotten in trouble for granting these continuances because I was fired shortly after, so I don't know. But it clarified for me what the strategy is here. As Mike will tell you, there recently was a change in a serious change in policy where folks who previously had been picked up for immigration violations are allowed to try to convince a judge that they're not a threat to the community, they're not a flight risk, and bond out, post some bail, and they get released back to their family. The new administration's appellate body has taken away the right to ask for bond. So what that means is if you get picked up for an immigration violation, it's a one-way street. You can't ask for bond. You're going to be in jail. It's civil detention. They will tell you it's not a criminal, but you're in jail until the conclusion of your case. And when the instructions came down to me, guys, to very rarely grant these continuances in these detained cases, it suddenly clarified to me, here's the strategy. Get people into jail, make the conditions in the jail intolerable, and have the people give up. No mas. I want to go home. Voluntarily deport me. It clarified for me when I saw these cases without a judge telling the staff to do. The staff had been instructed to move these cases from November up to 10 days after the hearing. So that's a little bit about what's going on in the immigration courts. The question from Maggie was, how can the community help in this situation? Well, the first thing you can do is to talk to your neighbors so that people understand there's an erosion of due process. Immigration courts are really not independent tribunals in the best of times, because the Attorney General herself personally can overrule any immigration court decision and write an opinion just overruling it just personally. It's very seldom used, that power, but it's been used quite frequently in the past few weeks and months. People don't know that. So I think one thing you can do, Maggie, is to be aware, maybe do a little Googling, but be aware of what I just told you. The process is not fair. It was flawed in the best of times, and they're eroding it day by day, week by week, and we have to start to understand that as a community and as a nation, and talk to each other and get the word out. So that's what I would advise, Maggie.
Applause for Ted Doolittle. Miriam, can you stay? I know that I grabbed you as you were trying to leave.
I have to be somewhere else, but I kind of want to.
If you need to, there is grace. And thank you. Everyone, please. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, your story. I'm sorry, I'm asking, this is Dodd. Everybody who's met Dodd knows Dodd. But he's an incredible individual who's gone through an incredible story. And I'm always inspired just sort of following you around, because he's always got a smile on his face. But I don't want to put you on the spot. I just want to say thanks for being here and tell them anything that might help.
I think my story is part of the story of thousands of other people like me that have immigrated to this beautiful country. I would like to start by saying, of course, again, thank you for being not only in this room, but being in this vital mission of welcome. I do not want to talk about the challenges that refugees and immigrants are encountering right now, because not that I don't want to, but because I know that you know them. And that's why you have chosen to be part of the solution. And I have to say that a lot of you have been supporting IRIS, not only volunteering your time, but your generosity in opening your wallet. And opening your wallet, of course, is not the old sense of this word as a charity. And obviously, this is an investment in courage, resilience, and a more diverse and strong community in this beautiful country. I want to tell you one story, though, not my story, but a story of a different family, so that you feel good. What is it that you're exactly supporting? What is it that your generosity is supporting? Late May this year, we met a family of 7 from Afghanistan. They had just arrived. And you could see a hollow look in their eyes. That was a clear indication of they had seen too much. Their travel from Afghanistan, from Pakistan to the United States was a nightmare, because they were en route to the United States in Qatar when their flight was canceled because of the new administration canceled and suspended all those programs, all those grants that were providing those services. And he was terrified. He was safe, but he was terrified with his family. And something had to happen. And by the time that they had gotten here, IRIS also had lost all those resources that otherwise we had available and handy to support new families. And your generosity made this happen. In the span of a few days, IRIS could move them to a well-furnished apartment, clean apartment, and our education team helped their kids to be enrolled in school and adult and English classes. I have to say that this generosity comes from the communities, from people like you. Was not a charity again. This was obviously an investment. And I will tell you why. When, of course, we are overcoming this difficult and challenging period of years, maybe 4 years, when the headlines fade, but your impact, the impact of your acts remain. It remains in the smile of those families, and it remains in the college degree of those children of those families. And it remains in a very strong and diverse community. In a different word, I have to say that you are planting a tree under whose shade you will never sit. You're building life of those people that you might never meet. And you're a true patriot, not those policymakers or leaders who are daily by devising policies that hurt our core values in this country. But your acts embodies the highest values of America. And I have to say, as a former immigrant, that you are the majority. And thank you so much on behalf of Iris' entire team, but of course on behalf of every single family that we have had the honor to walk beside them. Thank you for your compassion, thank you for your commitment, and thank you for your incredible belief that we together can build a very strong and welcoming world. Thank you.
That's great.
Zara, hold on.
Thank you. I'd love to know what each of you think would take to reverse the refugee program, or lack thereof, right now at the federal government level, so that we can properly bring people who really need refuge to this country and settle them. Once they're here, there are lots of great organizations, as in this room, doing great work, but what is it going to take to change it at the federal level?
Well, I think we're a long way from that. One of the things, as Senator Murphy alluded to, it's just a fact that immigrants are good for the economy. And that is not something that a lot of Americans who vote believe. And so it's going to take folks like Senator Murphy to lead. Any discussion of immigration should lead with the fact that let's set aside the racism, let's set aside the xenophobia, let's talk about what America needs economically. And what we need is immigrants. You know, the data does show that we came out of COVID better because we had immigrants. So again, something to learn and talk about. I would recommend, there's a book called Streets of Gold by Bustan and Armitsky, I believe it is. Streets of Gold, very accessible. They're high level, highfalutin like economists at Stanford or something, but it's very accessible and explains to you how immigrants are right for the economy. That's the baseline to me, that the message that we have to get out, that you know, if you're interested in growth and you're interested in prosperity, given the demographics of America, immigrants are necessary.
I'll just add to that two things. I think Attorney General Tong probably said it much better, much more charismatically. But you know, it's all about elections. You know, the system of the refugee system, you know, painting with a broad brush, the federal government has a lot of executive power to do what they want. So can it be changed during this administration? I don't see how. I mean, take away all of the system, problems, the president is able to determine the level, and 7,500 is, of course, absurd, but that he can do that. And I was inspired, actually, something that Ted said, is to a book. And it's a very small book. It's called On Tyranny, and it's by Professor Timothy Snyder. Sorry, from Yale. He's from Yale, and he wrote this book. And during 1.0, when I was here with IASC, he donated a lot of his books, signed, so that we could raise a little bit of money. But it's the power within the book that's most striking. So if you look there, I think you'll find a lot of things to do.
With a judge, with a lawyer sitting here, there's very less for me to say, probably. But I have to say that the refugee crisis is a very humanitarian crisis. It has nothing to do with the politics. But unfortunately, it has been over-politicized today. Even though the U.S. refugee program has been suspended, thousands of those refugees that they went through this rigorous and extensive screening overseas are now stranded, and they have no hope to get to safety. However, in the country, we are prioritizing certain nationalities that we do not know whether the international law of a refugee with the UN has been implemented. Because if you become a refugee, first you need to go to the third country to be identified and screened as a refugee. Once that status is granted to you, then you can apply for a resettlement in a host country. Whether that due process is being implemented or not, of course, you might know the answer better than me. However, when it comes to IRIS, as a refugee resettlement agency, we continue to work with these hundreds of families that we have welcomed within the last years. We have been providing support to survive, but now we are pivoting to assist them to thrive in this country. That's one, and secondly, we have some Afghan allies that they are self-traveling, that we will continue to support. But of course, even that pathway to Afghan allies who supported the US military, like myself, and US government in Afghanistan, are in a tremendous danger, actually, in those countries, have been significantly sluggish, the process, and the visa is not being issued. If the visa is issued, they cannot travel. But we are prepared. If they are lucky enough to come, we will continue to support them. However, when it comes to refugees, true refugees, we have had 0 so far.
Hi. Thank you. And this is really a marvelous panel. And part of what I want to do in posing this question is to kind of broaden it out a bit, because on one hand, we should all speak to our neighbors. I'm guessing our neighbors are like ourselves, maybe they're not. And so I'm concerned with the other side of that argument, because on one hand, when I sit in this room, and as a member of IRIS's board, we're all committed. That's why we're sitting here. So the people who are not here are primarily the people we're trying to reach. And it strikes me that we're losing a public debate about the nature of immigration and what the values of this country are. We sit here and we nod vigorously when people talk about equality and that immigrants contribute to the economy, and I've written down the book you referenced. I hope to read it in the next couple of weeks. But there are obviously huge swaths of the American population that absolutely disagree with the premise of this discussion, which is that immigrants are good for the economy, they add diversity to the nation, they make the nation better. And so I feel like there are parts of the discussions that are like absent that broader political analysis, where immigrants have been vilified and where they have been demeaned, and where within some immigrant communities themselves have been divided so that there's a cleavage between those who have arrived with papers or legally and those who have arrived without them and therefore illegally. And so what I would like to hear from the IRIS panel is, in terms of kind of the public discourse and the public narrative, how do we push back against what is actually an American tradition of punishment, directed at different people at different times for adhering or not adhering to rules that may be known or unknown. And I don't think we can forget the American context of this all. And if we do so at our own peril. So my question to you is, like, how do we re-engage and win more on the public debate about both American values, highly disputed right now, and the value of immigration and immigrants within those American values? Thanks.
Thank you so much. Great question, but of course, there were many speakers tonight that they did provide a very good answer, indirectly or directly, to that question. We are a nation of immigrants, and what value that we are trying to uphold are coming from our diverse communities. And what we are proud of today, and actually that pride comes from diverse communities. Before coming to the United States, I was in this belief that the US strength and preponderance of the US, this military might, this economic might, power. But since I have come to the US, particularly since the time with IRIS, I have been working with such a wonderful community groups. We have a number of them here, from Old Lyme to New London, Start Fresh. I have come to this understanding that this preponderance or the strength of the United States is not this military might, it's not the economy, it is the strong community. And this community has been strengthened by this diversity. I have seen a number of group of volunteers as co-sponsors that have been assisting a number of families, have met them. When I go there in their meetings especially, I do see this beautiful diversity, is strong, that everybody's working on one common goal. And they really care about the issue in their community, and they really care about the issue that their community fellows or American fellows are facing. And I find myself, I have lived here for 6 or 7 years, but I have learned this from them, that every night I have to tell to my kids, what is it to be American? So this trends will continue from generation to generation, but this started this value from a diverse community. Going back to this documented with the paper, forgive Maggie my presumptuity if I'm saying this, but at IRIS, as a refugee resettlement agency, we believe that irrespective of what pathway you take, you as a human being, whether you're a documented neighbor or you're a undocumented neighbor or documented neighbor, you as a human fellow deserve to live a life in a peace. You deserve to build a peaceful life. We do not differentiate, but however, when it comes to the finance things and all those, what comes there, it is of course a little bit making it difficult and hard to really ensure equity. But if there are resources available, IRIS has always been, as a refugee resettlement agency, to really provide services irrespective of somebody's status or their background or the pathway they have pursued to a safety. Thank you.
Good. I'll just say right up front, that question, how do you reach across? How do you get through to the other side? How do you foster a future where this type of bad things sort of fades away? This is the question. It plagues me. It really, really does. In my position, I'm like a mechanic. When the car needs to be fixed, you bring it in, I fix it, I give it back. But I'm dealing with whatever comes in. It's kind of like the laws and the regulations that I deal with. and the system, the bureaucracy. I know how it works. I know we can do this if we apply and use this form and this form and this evidence. But the policy behind it and what propelled that form in front of me is something that it's kind of a black box. And so all I can do is I focus on what I can do, and I will admit, reaching across, if anybody has an answer, I mean, how do you humanize someone to a person who feels that they are inhuman? I mean, I have heard some really wacky stuff on, people's beliefs. I just don't get it. I don't understand. But I know that I'm not equipped very well to reach across. And so all I try to do is help here. I go to bed and I hope that's enough. I know it's not, but that's what I do. And so if anybody ever has an answer, spread it around. You got an answer, Judge?
I don't know if I have an answer, but let me share my thoughts, and you can tell me if it's the start of some type of answer. So, first off, in my prior job as healthcare advocate, helping families fighting with their health insurance companies, and in my job as an immigration judge, I was focused on the families in front of me, and I wanted, if I felt the decision would withstand appeal, I would grant an asylum application. If I felt it wouldn't, I would deny it. And I understand the human level. I think in terms of the politics of this country and how to reach out to the other side, there may be some, not short-term solution, but there may be some way to win by focusing much more, as I was alluding to earlier, on economics and the macro picture rather than the tragedy of an individual family. And as I have a long background in healthcare policy, and that's a complicated issue. And I'm just, over the past couple of years as an immigration judge, I've started to think about immigration from the policy perspective. And here is a problem that the United States has. Setting aside individual asylum cases, setting aside the individual families, we don't know how many immigrant families the United States needs to prosper economically. We don't have any large plan view. The cases are decided on an individual basis, and that's ridiculous. What we need as a nation is an independent body that does an annual calculation of how many immigrants the U.S. economy can absorb, or in another way, how many immigrant families and what type of immigrant families the United States needs to hit certain economic growth targets, let's say. And we actually have an organization that already does some of that, and could, without that much difficulty, add a duty of trying to estimate how many immigrant families the U.S. economy needs. How many new families do we need paying taxes to pay for Medicare, Social Security, what have you? And that's the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, as you guys, some of you guys know, is the most independent part of the U.S. government, with the possible exception of the General Accounting Office. But, and now they call it something else. But anyway, the Federal Reserve is very independent. They already are stocked with economists who part of the Federal Reserve's mission, as you know, is setting interest rates, but also they're supposed to be trying to foster what they call full employment. And so they're already in the business of calculating all these different jobs that are needed in the economy, where they're needed. So to me, what we need to do is have an organization like the Federal Reserve start to calculate, just in terms of, forget the humanity of it, just in terms of what the growth targets are for the United States, how many immigrant families do we need? And once that estimate comes out, the rest of the government, legislatively and the executive branch, could back into that number, right? You know, we need, I'm making it up. And I don't know whether the number is high or low, okay? Because nobody's has ever done that. It might be too low for the folks in this room. It might be too high for others. I don't know. But the point is that just from the bloodless economic perspective, we don't know what we need. And that's a little bit ridiculous. And I think if we started to frame the debate around that, it does take out some of the racism and the xenophobia. Like I say, maybe the number is going to be too low from my perspective or too low from your perspective. I don't know. But at least we'd be talking about immigration in a macro sense and in a what's best for the American economy sense. That's quite apart from the individual cases. So that's a long-term solution, right? But something like that is needed. We're right now just shouting at each other, and nobody's got any basis for, for blocking people from coming in or bringing in more people. Where both sides are without like factual ammunition, and there's no reason we need to continue that. So that's one thing I would think about.
I'd like for us all to thank this incredible panel. True story, I stalked Ted on LinkedIn. Very, very true story. Sure.
To Mike, if somebody wanted to volunteer their services, how would they get involved?
Is Katie still in the house?
Katie is always in the house.
That's who you contact.
It's through me, it's online, we have QR codes here, we have a sign-up sheet here.
Can I ask for one more round of applause for the amazing Iris staff? Vasana, Venu, Katie, Tatiana, Erin, Michael, Dodd, Mike. I'm missing someone. No. Yes, anyway, to all of them, because without them, this evening would not have happened. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. It was so fun. I think we just needed to be together. You know, sometimes just, sure, we're not all fighting with other people, but it's okay.
Maggie, some years ago, I run or helped run a Friday Night Folk music series.
Oh, neat.
About 3 or 4 years ago, before COVID, we